The ship that shouldn't exist. The stars over the Valoran system were calm that night. No wars, no patrols, just silence. At the edge of the system, an old Imperial listening post floated among the dark. It was a lonely place, a station where bored officers sat for months monitoring empty space. For centuries, no unknown ship had ever entered this area. The galaxy had been peaceful ever since the extinction of one species, humans. Everyone knew that name. Everyone feared it once, and everyone believed they were gone. The Empire's history books called it the cleansing of Earth. 300 years ago, a coalition of alien species joined together to destroy humanity after a long, brutal war. They said humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too wild to exist, and when the fires finally faded, Earth was gone, burned, broken, and silent. But tonight something impossible was coming back. "Lieutenant, are you seeing this?" Officer Varen frowned at his radar. The screen flickered with strange static, a pulse repeating every few seconds. At first he thought it was just another system glitch. Old Imperial tech often failed out here. Then the pulse grew stronger. It wasn't random. It had rhythm, like a heartbeat. "Power fluctuation?" another officer asked. Varen shook his head. "No, this is external. It's coming from deep space." He adjusted the scanner range. A faint dot appeared, distant, cold, moving slowly toward the system. No transponder signal, no ID code, no warp signature. "Could be debris," someone muttered, but Varen's voice was tight. "Debris doesn't move like this." He zoomed in. The object was huge, the size of a battleship. Its surface reflected faint light, almost black, like something absorbing energy rather than reflecting it. "Captain," Varen called out. "You need to see this." Captain Jarrell entered the control deck, annoyed. He was old, experienced, and tired of false alarms. "What is it now?" he asked sharply. Varen pointed to the screen. "Unidentified object entering from deep space. No Imperial code, it's ancient. Ancient!" Jarrell frowned. "How old?" Varen hesitated. "It's transponder signal. It's broadcasting something. A code I haven't seen before." He tapped a few keys, decoding the faint signal. Then the words appeared on the screen. Old Earth text. English. USS Nemesis. Designation, Terran Fleet Command. The bridge went silent. Captain Jarrell stepped closer, reading the line again, disbelief frozen on his face. "That's not possible," he said quietly. "Humanity was wiped out centuries ago." The signal grew stronger. The dark object had now entered Imperial territory. Its movement was deliberate, controlled, intelligent. "Try to hail it," Jarrell ordered. Varen nodded. "Channel open." A deep silence filled the speakers, followed by a faint crackle. Then a voice, cold, human, and echoing with power. "This is the USS Nemesis. Identify yourselves." Everyone on the bridge froze. That voice was human, not an AI, not synthetic. Human. Jarrell swallowed hard. "This is Captain Jarrell of the Valoran Imperial Station. Identify your species." Humanity was declared extinct. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, calm but heavy with steel. "You were wrong." Static cut through the speakers again and the connection dropped. On the sensor screen, the ship began to accelerate. Its engines burned with a strange blue-white light, unlike any known technology in the galaxy. Energy readings spiked off the charts. "Captain," Varen said, eyes wide, "it's powering weapons." Jarrell slammed his hand on the console. "All stations in red alert. Contact High Command."
"Now!" sirens wailed.
The crew scrambled, panic spreading like fire. But it was already too late. The black warship stopped just outside firing range, and something rippled across the void. "The stars themselves seem to bend around it, sir," Varen whispered. "It's cloaked in a gravity field. It's pulling light itself." Jarrell's throat went dry. That's impossible." And then through the static the voice came again, calm, terrifyingly certain. "You tried to erase us. You failed." The warship opened fire. No one in the Valoran station had ever seen weapons like that. There was no light beam, no laser, just silence. A pulse of invisible force tore through space, hitting the Imperial shields like a hurricane of gravity. The shields shattered instantly. Alarm screamed. Consoles exploded. "Impact on Deck 3, someone shouted. "We're losing power!" Jarrell tried to shout commands, but his voice was drowned by the roar of collapsing metal. The station began to crack apart, pulled toward the massive human ship as if by invisible hands. In the last moments before the reactor went critical, Jor-El looked up at the screen and saw it. The ship's hull bore a single glowing insignia, a blue and white flag. A planet. Earth. Then everything went white. Hours later, in the far reaches of the system, a rescue patrol found only wreckage. The Imperial listening post was gone. No distress beacon. No survivors. Only drifting metal fragments. And a single recording, corrupted and fragmented, playing over and over. The last words of Captain Jor-El. It was human. Dear gods, it was human. When the news reached Imperial High Command, panic spread. Every admiral, every senator, every council member remembered the stories their ancestors told of the Terran Wars. They had called humanity dangerous. They had called them extinct. Now, they weren't sure anymore. The Emperor himself stood before his advisors, voice trembling. If the humans survived, where have they been for 300 years? No one had an answer. Meanwhile, far beyond the Empire's borders, inside the USS Nemesis, dim lights glowed over a cold steel bridge. Dozens of silent figures moved between consoles, humans in dark uniforms, their faces pale and emotionless. At the center sat a woman, her eyes sharp as glass. Her name was Captain Alina Cross, last surviving officer of the Terran fleet. Her voice echoed through the command deck. Status report. Enemy station destroyed. No survivors detected. Good. She leaned back slowly, watching the stars outside. Set course for Imperial Command. It's time the galaxy remembers what they did to Earth. The crew nodded in silence. Engines flared blue. The USS Nemesis turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only ghosts and fear. The message from the Valoran listening post reached Imperial Command 12 hours later. Broken, full of static and impossible to believe. A single word echoed through the recording again and again. Human. The officers in the War Council chamber stared at the screen in silence. The room was filled with high-ranking commanders, admirals, intelligence directors, and senators. In the center sat Grand Admiral Threx, his long silver eyes fixed on the final line of the report. The Valoran post had been obliterated in less than 3 minutes. No survivors. No distress beacon. No known enemy signature. But one fragment of audio remained clear enough to terrify them all. This is the USS Nemesis, Terran Fleet Command. The room erupted into whispers. That's impossible. Humans are extinct. It must be a forgery. Some pirate ship pretending to be them. Grand Admiral Threx stood slowly, his voice cold and sharp. Enough. We have not faced human technology for 3 centuries, but I remember the stories. If this signal is genuine, then the galaxy is in grave danger. He turned toward the holographic projection of the destroyed station. It took one strike. The energy readings show a power output we've never recorded before. No known species could do this, not even the Krill, not even us. An intelligence officer cleared his throat. Sir, the ship's energy signature matches no known database entry, but the hull composition, the structure, and the transponder code, they all align with ancient Terran fleet patterns. Threx's voice darkened. Then the impossible has happened. Humanity has returned. Across the Empire's core worlds, the news spread like wildfire. Every military channel, every political circle, every civilian newsfeed whispered the same question. What if the humans survived? Panic took root. On the planet Corinth, alien citizens rushed to secure shelters. Old veterans from the human wars began telling stories again. Stories that the young ones thought were just myths. They fought like demons, one old soldier said, shaking his head. They never surrendered. They destroyed whole fleets just to make a point, a child asked softly. But they're gone, right? The old soldier didn't answer. He just stared at the stars. In the deep chambers of Imperial intelligence, Director Vorn studied the transmission frame by frame. The human voice was calm, confident, almost emotionless, and yet beneath it, there was pain, anger. He played the final message again. You tried to erase us. You failed. Vorn leaned back, whispering to himself. So, they remember. He opened a restricted file, one sealed for over 3 centuries. Inside were the classified records of the final human war. Scans of the burning Earth, reports from the fleets that bombarded the planet. And one last message intercepted during humanity's final hours. A human admiral's voice, defiant to the end. You can burn our world, but you will never kill our kind. One day the stars will tremble when humanity returns. Vorn felt a chill run through his blood. They weren't boasting, he murmured. They were promising. Meanwhile, at the edge of Imperial space, the USS Nemesis drifted silently between nebula clouds. Inside, Captain Alina Cross stood on the bridge, watching the holographic display of the Empire's fleet positions. Her ship's AI, Echo, spoke softly. Enemy response detected. Multiple Imperial fleets mobilizing near core systems. Estimated readiness 72%. Alina smiled faintly. They still think they're the strongest. Her first officer, Commander Reese, looked uneasy. Ma'am, we've been in the dark for centuries. We can't face their entire fleet alone. We won't, she said. Not yet. But they need to know we're not ghosts. Send another message to every major Imperial network. Reese hesitated. What kind of message? The truth. Moments later, Imperial communications channels across the galaxy flickered to life, hijacked. A single human face appeared on every screen. Alina Cross. Her voice was clear, her words slow and sharp. To the Galactic Empire, 3 centuries ago you burned our home. You thought you erased us, but humanity endures. We have returned not as slaves or relics, but as a warning. We remember everything. The broadcast cut off instantly, but the damage was done. Billions had seen her face, human, alive, unbroken. Back at Imperial Command, chaos erupted. Senators demanded answers. Admirals demanded war. The Emperor's throne chamber filled with panic and rage. The Emperor himself, a massive ancient being with 6 glowing eyes, stood slowly and raised a hand. The room fell silent. His voice was deep, echoing through the hall. So the ghosts of Earth rise again. If it is truly them, they must be destroyed before the galaxy remembers why we feared them. A general stepped forward nervously. Sire, permission to form the first response fleet? The Emperor nodded. Do it. Find this nemesis, hunt it down, and when you do, burn it like they burned the stars. In the Nemesis's command chamber, the crew watched the Imperial fleets gathering. Thousands of ships forming a wall of power across the void. Commander Reese clenched his fists. That's overkill for one ship. Captain Cross looked calm. Good, let them come. Echo spoke again. Multiple fleets advancing. Estimated contact in 72 hours. Plenty of time, Alina said. She turned toward a sealed door at the back of the bridge, one that no one had touched in years. Inside that chamber rested something ancient, the heart of their survival. A relic of Earth's final war. She placed her hand on the scanner and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a sphere of pulsing light, raw, unstable, and alive. Commander Reese followed her in, his voice trembling. You're not thinking of using that, are you? The Singularity Core hasn't been tested since. She cut him off. It's time the galaxy remembers why they feared us. Back in Imperial space, the fleet assembled near the Taurus Nebula, where the Nemesis had last been seen. Hundreds of warships lined up, forming a glowing wall of plasma engines and energy shields. Grand Admiral Threx stood on the command deck of the Imperial dreadnought Vornax, his voice calm but heavy. Open all long-range channels. If this thing is truly human, I want to speak before we destroy it. The comms officer nodded. Channel open. Threx's voice echoed into the void. Unknown vessel identifying as Nemesis. You are trespassing in Imperial space. Power down your engines and surrender. You will be treated. With restraint, silence followed. Then the same human voice returned, soft but cutting through space like a blade. Admiral Threx, your people burned Earth. There will be no surrender. Before Threx could respond, the stars around his ship began to distort. Sensors screamed warnings and gravitational anomalies, massive energy spikes. And then, out of the dark mist, the Nemesis appeared. Huge, black, silent. For a moment, even Threx felt fear. Fire all weapons, he roared. The Imperial fleet unleashed hell. Beams, missiles, plasma storms. Every weapon humanity had once feared. But when the light cleared, the Nemesis was still there, unharmed. And then it spoke one last time. Now, Admiral. Watch. The sphere inside the Nemesis pulsed once, and the stars bent. From across the system, Imperial sensors recorded something impossible. A localized black hole formed in seconds, swallowing ships, light, and sound. Hundreds of Imperial warships vanished, consumed by their own gravity wells. Threx's final transmission was full of static and screams, then silence. When the light returned, the nemesis was gone. In the Emperor's chamber, the news arrived like a storm. Entire fleets destroyed, no debris. No survivors. The Emperor rose from his throne, his voice shaking for the first time in centuries. What did we wake up? No one dared answer. Far beyond, in the dark void, the USS Nemesis floated quietly. Inside, Captain Cross watched the dying light fade from her screens. Her voice was calm, cold, and final. Message to all human survivors. The first strike is complete. The Empire remembers us now. The destruction of the Imperial First Response Fleet spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Thousands of ships gone in seconds. No wreckage. No survivors. No explanation. At first, the Empire tried to hide it. They called it a training accident, a sensor malfunction, even an experimental weapon test gone wrong. But people weren't fools. Videos leaked. Fragments of comms escaped the censorship barrier. The name Nemesis began to echo through the stars, and along with it, one forbidden word. Human. On the core world of Vashtar Prime, in the lower districts where rumors thrived, everyone was talking. Old veterans who fought in the human wars gathered in bars whispering to each other. The younger aliens who had grown up believing humanity was a myth listened in awe. They said one ship destroyed the whole fleet, not just destroyed and erased. Like they were never there. Impossible. No species has that kind of power. The old veterans didn't argue. They had seen things. They remembered the Terrans. In the Imperial Palace, the atmosphere was toxic. Fear had reached the throne. Emperor Jal sat in silence, his claws gripping the arms of his chair. Before him, Grand Admiral Threx's empty command badge lay on the table, the only thing recovered from the void. Around the room, his council argued, "We must strike back," shouted General Varric. "With what fleet?" snapped Admiral Kira. "You saw the footage and our weapons didn't even scratch that thing." The Emperor's voice cut through the noise. Silence. He turned to Director Vorn, head of Imperial Intelligence. "You have studied human technology for decades. Tell me, is this even possible?" Vorn's voice was quiet, almost trembling. "Sire, when we burned Earth, we assumed we ended their civilization. But if even a fraction of their fleets escaped, they could have hidden, rebuilt, evolved." Evolved? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Into what?" Vorn hesitated. "Into something worse than we can imagine. Far beyond Imperial reach, hidden deep within the Veil Nebula, the truth was unfolding. There were others. Hundreds of ships, silent, cloaked, scattered through forgotten sectors of space. Each bore the insignia of the Terran survival fleet. For centuries they had hidden, rebuilding slowly. They grew in secret away from the galaxy's eyes, waiting. Inside the command deck of the USS Nemesis, Captain Alina Cross stood before a massive holographic display, dozens of new signals flickering online. Her second-in-command, Commander Reese, looked at her in disbelief. "Are those?" "Yes," she said softly. "Human warships." The others finally answered. One by one, transmissions filled the bridge. Ghostly voices, distant faces, human captains who had waited for centuries. "This is the Armstrong." Message received. "This is the Valkyrie." Coordinates locked. "Ready to join." "This is the Titan." Humanity stands united. For the first time in 300 years, the Terran fleet was alive again. Echo, the ship's AI, spoke in its calm, digital tone. "Fleet synchronization complete. 37 vessels confirmed operational. Estimated full readiness in 96 hours, Alina nodded. "It begins then." Reese frowned. "You think the Empire knows there's more than one ship?" "They will soon," she said. "And that fear will destroy them faster than any weapon." Meanwhile, back in Imperial space, Director Vorn sat alone in his private office, studying old classified files. Every piece of data about humanity had been buried after their extinction, but now, he reopened the archives. There were reports of missing human fleets, abandoned colonies, deep space disappearances. The Empire never investigated. They thought it didn't matter. Now, it mattered more than ever. Suddenly, an alert flashed across his screen. Unauthorized network intrusion detected. Someone was hacking into Imperial intelligence. He froze. "Who could breach our mainframe?" A moment later, the screen turned black. Then a face appeared, human. Director Vorn said a calm voice. You have information we want. He tried to respond, but the comms were locked. His heart pounded as the human woman on the screen smiled faintly. You thought we were gone. You thought you were safe. You were wrong. The transmission ended, leaving behind only a single image, the symbol of Earth glowing white against the dark. Vorn leaned back in terror. They're watching us. Days later, the Empire began mobilizing again. Every available ship, every resource, every commander was ordered to the front. They called it Operation Final Dawn, a campaign to find and destroy the Nemesis. But deep inside, the admirals were afraid. They had seen what the humans could do. In the Veil Nebula, humanity was ready. The Terran fleet gathered, dozens of ships appearing like phantoms from the dark. Each was unique, powerful, built for survival and vengeance. And at their center stood the Nemesis. On the bridge, Captain Cross spoke to her fleet for the first time. 300 years ago, we watched our world burn. We were scattered, hunted, forgotten. The galaxy believed we were dead. But now they will see who we've become. The bridge crew watched in silence, their eyes filled with the same emotion: anger, sorrow, and pride. We don't fight for revenge alone. We fight so no one ever tries to erase humanity again. The Empire wanted silence. Let's give them thunder. Cheers echoed across every human ship, and then the fleet vanished into the void, moving faster than any known technology could track. In the Imperial capital, alarms screamed across the defense grid. Unknown signals were appearing, hundreds of them surrounding key systems. General Varric shouted, "How did they get here?" "We had no warning." "They're jamming our sensors," cried another officer. "We can't track them." And then, for the first time in centuries, human voices filled Imperial channels again. "This is the Terran fleet. You burned our home. Now we burn your empire." Moments later, the sky turned to fire. Human warships emerged from hyperspace like shadows tearing open the stars. They struck with precision. Shipyards, military outposts, weapon factories, all gone in minutes. Not random destruction, but surgical vengeance. In one system, an Imperial commander watched helplessly as his entire planet's defense grid failed. Every weapon shut down. Every satellite went dark. Then a message appeared on every screen. You wanted us forgotten. But history remembers humanity. Moments later, the entire base erupted in light. As the attack spread, panic consumed the Empire. Worlds rebelled. Armies deserted. The myth of human extinction was dead. And in its place, in the legend of human wrath, was born again. Back aboard the Nemesis, Captain Cross stood silently as reports came in from across the fleet. Every target destroyed. Every mission complete, Commander Reese whispered. We've done it. They're broken. But Alina didn't smile. This is only the beginning, she said. The Emperor will not stop until one of us is gone. Echo's voice interrupted. Captain, incoming transmission, Origin Imperial Palace. Put it through, she ordered. The Emperor himself appeared, his glowing eyes filled with fury. You think you can challenge me, little human? You think your kind can rise from the ashes? Alina looked straight into his eyes. We already have. And then she cut the transmission. Outside, the Terran fleet formed up again, engines glowing bright. In the void beyond, the Empire's remaining armadas gathered for war. The final confrontation was coming. And this time it wouldn't be one ship against many. It would be humanity against the galaxy. The galaxy had not seen war in 3 centuries. But now, it burned again. Across dozens of systems, human ships struck with terrifying precision. They didn't destroy civilians. They didn't conquer planets. They targeted only the Empire's war machine. Shipyards, fuel depots, weapon silos. Each attack was clean, fast, silent. And each one carried the same message burned into the Empire's databases. You started this. Humanity ends it. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zhao watched as new reports flooded in, red markers covering the star map like drops of blood. He clenched his fists, his voice trembling with rage. Billions of soldiers, thousands of ships, and they move through us like ghosts. Admiral Kira bowed her head. They use jump drives we can't detect, weapons that ignore shields and armor that bends space around them. They're not fighting by our rules, sire. Then we change the rules, Zal hissed. He turned toward the Grand Council. Prepare the Eclipse Protocol. Every officer froze. The Eclipse Protocol was the Empire's last resort, a weapon forbidden by law, even in total war. It didn't just destroy worlds, it erased entire star systems, Kira whispered, horrified. But sire, it will kill billions. Zhao's eyes glowed brighter. So be it. If the humans wish for fire, we shall give them the sun. Far away in the Veil Nebula, Captain Alina Cross stood before a holographic image of the galaxy. Dozens of red lines showed new Imperial fleets forming at the center. Commander Reese frowned. They're pulling everything to the core. They're planning something huge. Echo, the ship's AI, spoke softly. Energy signatures indicate multiple star reactors being modified for weaponization. Probability of mass destruction event, 94%. Alina's eyes narrowed. So they're going to burn the galaxy to stop us. Reese turned to her. Then what do we do? She looked out into the nebula, her expression unreadable. We remind them who taught the stars how to burn. Days later, the Terran fleet gathered again. Hundreds of warships hovering in silence, each one cloaked and hidden among the dust clouds of the Veil Nebula. The fleet was not made of new soldiers. They were descendants of Earth's survivors, hardened by centuries of exile born among the stars. Each one carried a memory of Earth, a fire that never went out. On the bridge of the USS Nemesis, the tension was thick. Captain Cross stood at the center, surrounded by her officers. Report, she ordered. Fleet synchronization complete, Echo replied. All ships ready for assault. Reese hesitated. Ma'am, are we really ready to face the entire Empire? Alina smiled faintly. No one ever is. But the difference between us and them? She paused, looking at the hologram of Earth, cracked, blackened, lifeless, is that we already know what it means to lose everything. Meanwhile, in Imperial space, Director Vorn was running out of time. He had discovered the Emperor's plan, the Eclipse Protocol, and what it truly meant. It would not just destroy the humans. It would collapse hundreds of star systems, turning entire sectors into black holes. The Empire would win, but the galaxy would die. Vorn stared at the data, his mind racing. He had always hated humanity, but this was madness. He whispered, he'll destroy everything, even us. He activated a secure transmitter. There was only one being who could stop this, and she was supposed to be his enemy. He sent a coded signal to the Nemesis. Eclipse protocol active. You don't have much time. Inside the Nemesis, Echo intercepted the message. Unverified transmission detected, the AI said. Alina frowned. Who's sending it? Source Imperial Intelligence. Director Vorn, Reese scoffed. A trap? Maybe, Alina said. But if it's not, this is our only chance. The message replayed, Vorn's voice desperate. They're going to use the suns themselves as weapons. Find the control nexus. Stop it, or there will be no galaxy left to save. Silence filled the bridge. Finally, Alina turned toward her officers. Set course for the Imperial core. We're going straight into the lion's mouth. The journey through the core was suicide. Thousands of Imperial ships patrolled every system, but the Nemesis and its fleet moved like shadows, bending light, warping gravity, invisible to sensors. At last, they reached their destination, the Eclipse Station, a colossal ring built around a dying star. The star's surface burned dark red, unstable, chained by massive energy pylons that drew its power for the weapon. Echo scanned it. Power output off the charts. Once activated, it will create a supernova cascade through nearby stars, Reese whispered. It'll wipe out half the galaxy. Alina nodded. Then we shut it down. As the Terran fleet uncloaked, alarms blared across the station. Imperial commanders shouted orders, scrambling ships to intercept. The first battle of the war's final chapter had begun. Human warships dove through enemy lines, their weapons cutting through Imperial shields like paper. Explosions painted the void. Dozens of ships on both sides vanished in fire. The Nemesis led the charge, its hull glowing as it absorbed enemy fire and sent it back amplified tenfold. Echo's voice was calm amid the chaos, targeting control nodes, firing main cannon. Beams of white light lanced across space, tearing the pylons from the star's surface. Each strike shook the heavens. Inside the station, Imperial engineers screamed as alarms filled the corridors. One officer cried out, "The containment is failing. The star's destabilizing." Admiral Kira, commanding the defense, watched in horror. If the star collapsed now, the entire system, her fleet, her world, would be annihilated. She opened a channel to the Nemesis. "This is Admiral Kira of the Imperial fleet. You're going to destroy everything. Helena's face appeared on her screen, calm and cold. Then shut it down. Help us stop it, Kira hesitated. I can't betray my emperor. Then watch your empire die. The screen cut off. Outside, the dying star began to pulse erratically, throwing massive solar flares across space. Ships burned, systems failed, and gravity waves tore fleets apart. Reese shouted, "The station's collapsing! We need to pull out." Not yet, Alina said. Echo, divert all power to the Singularity Core. The AI paused. Warning, core overload will destroy this vessel. Alina looked out at the burning star. Then let's make it count. Inside the Nemesis, lights dimmed as power redirected to the core. The ship trembled violently, energy rippling through its structure. The Singularity Core began to glow, brighter, stronger, bending the light around it. Then Alina gave the final order. Fire. A beam of pure gravity erupted from the Nemesis, hitting the star dead center. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the star collapsed, but instead of exploding, the core stabilized it, absorbing the energy, sealing the supernova. The Eclipse station went dark. The war stopped. Every sensor across the galaxy picked up the same reading. The human ship had just saved half the galaxy from total destruction. On the Emperor's throne world, Zal screamed in fury. They ruined everything. Activate the backups. But there were no backups. The humans had done the unthinkable, saved the very galaxy that once tried to kill them. Back aboard the Nemesis, the crew stared at the silent screens. Reese whispered. We did it, Echo's voice replied, quiet and calm. Confirmed. Eclipse threat neutralized, but energy levels critical. Core containment unstable. Alina smiled faintly. Of course it is. She looked out at the stars one last time. Transmit to all ships, mission complete. Begin evacuation protocol. As the Terran fleet retreated into the void, the Nemesis stayed behind. The ship's core began to glow brighter and brighter, folding the space around it. In the last seconds, Alina placed her hand on the console. Humanity survived hell, she whispered, and we came back stronger. Remember that. The ship vanished into light, a silent flash, and then nothing. The galaxy was silent for the first time in centuries, not quiet but broken. Imperial worlds were in chaos. Ships drifted lifeless, fleets without commanders. Cities were abandoned as alarms screamed through empty halls. The Emperor's command, once absolute, had shattered. Every system, every governor, every soldier now faced the terrifying truth. Humans had returned. On the throne world, Emperor Zal sat in his massive chamber, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers dotted it. Imperial outposts destroyed, fleets wiped out, command stations gone. His 6 glowing eyes burned with fury, but also with fear. Grand Admiral Threx's fleets were gone. The Eclipse Protocol had failed. The humans had not just stopped it. They had turned the Empire's ultimate weapon into a lesson in their power. Impossible. Zal hissed. They should have perished centuries ago. They should have been extinct. A council member stepped forward, trembling. Your Majesty, our forces, scattered. The fleets report near total destruction. Zal's claws clenched so hard the metal of his throne cracked. They will pay. But even he, ancient and cruel, could feel the first seeds of doubt. Far away, in uncharted space, the Terran fleet regrouped. The USS Nemesis led them through the darkness, its engines leaving trails of blue-white energy. Captain Alina Cross stood on the bridge, silent. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Commander Reese finally spoke. Ma'am, the Emperor is still alive. There are fleets scattered across the outer systems. He'll rebuild, Alina nodded slowly. I know. That's why we go further. Echo, the ship's AI, spoke with calm precision. Recommendation? Engage stealth approach to Imperial core sectors. Potential intelligence retrieval may yield strategic advantage. Alina's lips curved in a faint, cold smile. Good. Prepare for Phase 2. Meanwhile, across the shattered empire, rebellions ignited. Worlds that had been oppressed for centuries saw their opportunity. Alien governors abandoned fleets. Soldiers refused to obey commands. The Emperor's authority was crumbling, faster than any human attack could have done alone. One planet, Sovarn Prime, erupted into revolution. Citizens took control of military installations, weapons factories, and communication hubs. A local officer whispered to a rebel, They said the humans were gone. We thought it was safe to follow orders. Now they've returned, and they've given us hope. Hope. That word was deadly in the Emperor's halls. Back aboard the Nemesis, Alina studied ancient Imperial archives retrieved by small human reconnaissance teams. Ships, stations, and planetary files, all scattered, hidden, unguarded. She examined the Emperor's personal logs, encrypted but partially exposed by the chaos. He had not forgotten humanity. He had feared them until the very last moment. And now she had his secrets. Phase 2, she whispered. Time to remind the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated. On one of the Emperor's outer fortresses, Imperial Admiral Kira prepared her last remaining fleet. Less than half the ships remained functional. Energy reserves were low. Morale was shattered. Commander, she barked, addressing her aide. We must strike before they return to the core sectors. If the humans regain full strength, we are finished. Her aide nodded nervously. They're not just humans anymore, Admiral. They've changed. Their technology, faster, stronger, almost alive. Kira clenched her jaw. We don't have a choice. Send the orders. We strike at dawn. The next day, in the dark void of space, two fleets faced each other. On one side, the remnants of the Empire, battered but desperate. On the other, the Terran fleet, silent, cloaked, hundreds of ships moving like shadows. Captain Alina Cross observed from the bridge of the Nemesis. Let them come, she said quietly. They think they fight us. They don't know we fight for every century they tried to erase. Reese's voice broke the tense silence. Ma'am, even a shadow strike from them could destroy us. Alina's eyes were cold steel. Then we make sure they strike nothing but themselves. The battle began with the sudden flash of plasma and light. Imperial fleets fired first, attempting to overwhelm the Terran forces. But the humans had learned. They moved with precision. Weapons fired, shields reconfigured mid-battle, and Imperial ships were destroyed almost before they could react. One by one, entire squadrons disappeared. The humans did not simply kill, they erased. From the Nemesis, Alina issued commands. Engage localized gravity fields. Trap them. Overload their cores. Across the void, Imperial ships became trapped in invisible maelstroms of energy. They drifted helplessly, torn apart by weapons they could not understand. Admiral Kira's voice crackled over comms. Impossible. Their weapons. Their shields. Nothing works. Alina smiled faintly. You wanted war. You got it, and you lost before it even began. Hours passed. The Emperor received the reports with growing disbelief. Entire fleets destroyed. Systems surrendered without resistance. The Terran fleet was not fighting for conquest. They were fighting to demolish the Empire's power completely. Zhao's voice thundered across his throne room. Activate the final defenses. Do not let them reach the core. Every last ship, every soldier, hold them back. But the humans were already too fast, too smart, too united. Meanwhile, deep in hidden sectors, Alina activated the Nemesis Protocol, a secret measure designed centuries ago by Terran engineers. It would not just destroy the Empire, it would reset it. Prepare the transmission, she ordered. We broadcast the truth to every Imperial system. Let them see what humanity has become. Messages flashed across the galaxy. You tried to erase us. You failed. We survived, we adapted, and we returned not for mercy, but to ensure no one ever forgets Earth again. Imperial soldiers stopped fighting. Citizens began fleeing. Panic spread faster than weapons fire. The final stand came near the Imperial core worlds. Alina personally led the Nemesis, slicing through enemy defenses, moving faster than anyone expected. The Emperor himself watched from his throne world, his eyes widening in horror. Impossible. They should not be here, he whispered. Alina's voice came across every comm channel. Your rule is over. Humanity has returned. The core systems surrendered. The Emperor's fleets were broken. The galaxy trembled at the return of a species long thought extinct. In the aftermath, Captain Cross stood on the bridge of the Nemesis. She looked at the stars, each system glowing in victory. Commander Reese said quietly, We did it. The Emperor is finished. Alina shook her head. Finished? No, this is only the beginning. The Empire will try again and the galaxy will watch. But now they know humans are not just survivors. We are legends. And as the Nemesis turned back into the void, a single thought ran through every human's mind aboard the fleet. Humanity has returned, and we are unstoppable. Centuries of silence had passed. The galaxy had long believed Earth destroyed, burned to ashes, erased from history. But humanity knew the truth. Earth had survived, hidden in a stasis shield buried deep beneath layers of orbiting debris and planetary shields. The Nemesis fleet now approached the Sol system, the long-forgotten cradle of humanity. Captain Alina Cross stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, staring at the holographic projection of the planet. The image flickered, old and faded but unmistakable. Blue oceans, green continents, and a quiet calm that belied the horrors of the past. Commander Reese broke the silence. "Ma'am, it's really here. Earth survived all this time?" Alina nodded. "Not just survived. It was waiting, preserved by our ancestors, shielded from the galaxy, protected until humanity returned." Echo, the ship's AI, spoke calmly. "Planetary shields still active. Atmospheric readings indicate dormant life preservation fields. Environmental system stable. Estimated reactivation in 3 hours." Alina smiled faintly. "Then let's wake her up." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the remnants of the Imperial Empire struggled to regroup. Their fleets were shattered, their systems in chaos, and their soldiers scattered. Emperor Zhal, now isolated on his throne world, watched helplessly as human broadcasts filled every channel. Images of the Terran fleet, sleek and powerful, appearing in every system, spread fear and awe. He roared in anger, shaking the throne room. They've returned. And now they claim their home." But there was nothing he could do. The humans were too fast, too smart, too united, and now they were coming for the world he thought he had destroyed.